I say, where is recommended summer?
Right there.
Okay, everyone look to the camera. Thank you.
The last time we interacted was when we were talking about the
Mom is pumping out 2 minutes to 8
Rebbe
minutes.
selection that we it's unfortunate, the result was great, but it's unfortunate to do it in person, so I come to the argument.
Can I ask you to take some closer to this?
I think it's when we were last at the work time, you and your entire family praying with great fervor. That made a big impression on me, Judge.
Is there a restaurant around this book I changed? Oh, wow.
You can see his working deputy. We're watching very carefully what we so often judges adjudicate cases on one pocket and another pocket.
And he would that as well.
Some difference.
You want that in general? Maybe some machine.
We have this hat set up. My wife suggested that yesterday. We suggested to trade the books for I told her the State Department might not value it. But quite that way.
Library website. Can I ask if you could we're heading to the airport right after this? Can I put
With the timing of your question.
it's good. So
After the State Department can help us with the agenda.
That's the reason why.
Don't give it out to each one.
Yeah.
Each one, you're coming into the library. You're coming to the library.
They haven't the last,
Come to 7-7, okay, fine. So you want to text me there, I'll come over, or should we do after? Okay,
you saw
I'm here with it.
the argument.
I'm here with certain levels.
One of the lawyers that had gone to the bank made the argument that government's interest is against the judge said, I don't see the government. Normally we see a brief from the government. The government didn't submit a brief. I don't think the government's not. In fact, the government's not here. That's a signal. All that work that your son's did, I have a very good friend, I just retired.
Where's that my letter?
We're thinking about picking the lamps.
It's very, very fair. I attribute this to hard work that you years getting the 100 letters.
went to
I was with them. I was with them. You know, the hard was getting the 100 center for some big roles. I think I would have not joined.
You see, always,
The Russian bank.
after the other had the first show. Got that book, Core, that's from us. Afterwards, we got 7 more.
Right.
Air Force One, do me a favor, hello? Thanks, it's one thing. We thought we're coming to Blooming.
My wife would say, white flowers from the block. Is that what they say in LA?
I was thinking that.
Yoshi,
I was thinking that.
Yoshi, who's here? I don't want the phone, I'm gonna take the
Oh, the dignitaries.
I don't want my table.
Yeah.
Singing and dancing at times. What a secret. No idea.
You wanna come to the library? Come up here. Come join us, and then we'll go together. My father's here. My father was there. My brothers are here.
Creates a layer.
Okay, fine. So you tell me, can we come after this, or do you want me to show right now? I'd rather come with my father.
Changes in the law. It's very hard.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
This is actually a better result than everything has reached the
So which one do you speak with?
issue.
It's all connected. No, in other words, the whole, on the thing,
Excited?
I spoke to work with
That's not gonna be good. How big is this? Right?
Are you already on live?
With Israel, or with the 7 books that they
Excuse me, Rabbi London. Yeah. We'll put them right in front of you. You look like
I didn't get the picture.
Yeah, I just get this thing, he just brought it, it was the Spanish and the French, we just published.
Look at this ruling, look. Look at the ruling.
It's wonderful to see you again.
Mendel, you guys bring some more chairs? More chairs. Some chairs.
No. Here?
No, we haven't. Oh, they can speak. Yes, I'm
Other than my mother, nobody ever said I didn't stop for it.
Yeah, just gonna make it.
Usually my family tells me I think about it.
Okay, we're going to start the event of the Hagigi of Hey Teves. So when the Rebbe announced the Hagigi of Hey Teves in Hey Teves Tafshin Mem Ches, he said then that this day of Hey Teves, every year when this day comes, it's a day of victory for everything that is related to the library. Every year when it comes, Hey Teves, it's a day of victory for everything that is related to the Hey Teves. Yes, certainly it is so every year. This year we have the Dan Notzach and these days of Hey Teves in 4 different areas. Let's start with the main one that we are now celebrating, the Hanukkah Sabayis of the new wing of the library. The library constantly gets new Sforim. And about 10 years ago, the whole space in the library, all the shafes, was overloaded with the Sforim that came till then. Everything that was built in Tovshin Nun in 1990 was packed full. So the rest of the Sforim, as you can see here and there, how many boxes of Sforim stayed in the boxes. We didn't have space to put them in the shelves. 10 years ago, Rabbi Krinsky spoke to the Nogid Reb Yitzchok Miralashvili that this building has to be purchased for an extension of the library. He came with Rabbi Miralashvili. I took them around. I showed them the boxes that the Sforim are waiting there. I showed them all parts of the library, that everything is booked and overbooked. And he then decided to purchase this house. As it stands now, we still don't need all 3 floors of the house. We needed 1 floor. This is the floor that was purchased for the library.
The whole building was for that.
The whole building, but this is the building that was devoted to fill up with Sforim. That wasn't enough, because the library, this floor has to be rebuilt, which means tearing off the floors and the room, the walls and the ceiling, and build everything from scratch in a stronger way with new additional beams. They should be able to keep the weight of the Sforim. Looking for a donor to build it. Again, Rabbi Krinsky spoke to Yossi Popak. He took it on himself, and it took a long time till he got the permits, until he started doing this, and everything was built in this floor from scratch. Since this is the main celebration for the new wing, Hanukkah Sabayis, that Rabbi Krinsky was so much involved in, we'll ask him to say a few words about this Hey Teves.
I didn't prepare any speech. I didn't know how to speak. But let me begin by saying that I always had a passion for books, for Svarim, always. Even from my younger years in Boston. My father had a beautiful library. This building, the 760 building, is next to 766, the original building of the library, to our right as I face you. I came into the Rebbe's office in 1957, a long time ago. And from the day I got there, I mean, I've studied here for many years, but when I came part of the Rebbe's office, I realized at that young age that this 770 is just not enough for us. It's not going to be enough. It wasn't even enough then. I mean, in the 40s, when I was just a student. Rabbi Rothstein, one of the Rebbe's secretaries, We had a very close relationship, and he coached me in many things in the work of the mosquitoes. And he came to me one day to say that Dr. Shapiro and his wife Rose approached him, and they had the house next door. It was a dentist that the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin actually used from time to time. And he's moving to Manhattan to his children, and he wants to give us first chance to purchase a building right next to 770. Well, that was good news, and I came to Rabbi Chodakov to talk about the cost. He said he had no money, which was very usual for him to say. I didn't know what the bank account was at that time, and he said, "Go raise money for it." The cost of the building was $25,000. Imagine. And there wasn't any money. So one night, eating dinner with my wife and children, some who are here today, my wife suggested to me, why don't you go to the Schwadrons? I don't know if you remember the department store chain that they owned. Gene Furkoff, remember Gene Furkoff, the name? They owned a department store chain from New York to Chicago.
Shingle.
Huh?
Shingle.
What? I'm sorry that I can't remember. We knew they were good friends of ours. They lived in the Great Neck, and she said, "Why don't you go speak to Jack and his wife? Maybe they can help us with the money." I took her idea and I called up, and Mrs. Schwartz said, "You can come tomorrow at 7:30." So we drove out there. They lived in a beautiful home on the Long Island Sound. The name of the street was Chabad Way. And within 15 minutes, they told me, "When you buy the building, I'll get a certified check and a check for the legal expenses that go along with purchasing a building." And when the day came, I let her know that it was a few days in advance. She says, "Meet me at the Chase Bank in Northern Boulevard at this time," and I was there, and she gave me a check. We bought the building. It was over. That was back in 1965. We always thought about this house, but it wasn't for sale. But thanks to Yitzhak Mirashvili, who was mentioned before by Rabbi Levine, fine people who just recently came from Russia and live in Israel now, and very charitable people. I spoke to Yitzhak. He was coming to America. I showed him the building, and he didn't give us the home, and we still have a mortgage on it, but it's just a small percentage of what the cost was. So these two buildings that I feel very privileged. I've been involved in purchasing them, and of course the Rebbe was happy. The Rebbe spent Shabbosim in the 766 building after the heart attack. The Rebbe case didn't walk home Friday night, and Shabbos coming. He joined with the Rebbe in the building for Shabbos and Yom Tevim, and this was an added gratefulness to Hashem that we're able to do that on behalf of the Rebbe. There's a lot more to say, but it's not the time other people have to speak. But I'm delighted to be here today. It means very, very much to me and my family, and to the Rebbe, of course, which is more important than anything else in our lives. And the Rebbe did declare this to be a yontif, so that this is a cause for celebration, and for like the Rebbe said, the first talk out the night I brought the decision to the Rebbe on Hey Tevis. The Rebbe spoke later in the evening. He said, it could be that the problem was that we aren't studying the books enough, so that we had this problem with being books trying to be taken from us. We should study the books and do as they teach us.
3 months ago, there was a huge storm in New York. Many basements was flooded, including 770. The whole floor of the whole big shul in 770 was picked up with several inches of water. The ground floor of the library is several inches lower than the floor of 770. Not only it was filled with water, but all the water that came from the shul in 770 came down to the library, was picked up in the library 12 inches high in the middle of the night, with nothing that we could do. The bookcases in the basement have a base that started up the books 6-inch high, but the water was 12 inches high, and 6 inches of about 5,000 volumes, many of them valuable, rare and old, was just soaked in the water. Came in the morning, and we were just lost, stunned. We didn't know where to reach. The first thing I did is I wrote an email to Rabbi Kunin. Rabbi Kunin is standing in the back of me, helping me in all the difficulties in the library for the last 35 years, since the court case, after that, the Shlichus to Russia, and after that, when the Rebbe told me to make a Vada Binyan that should be in charge of construction, of building a new library, I had then 2 people that was always helping me in every aspect in the library, which was the late Rabbi Shneur Zalman Guaria, and Yevod L'Chaim Tevim, the head shliach to the West Coast, Rabbi Shlomo Kunin. He's helping not only in doing for the library, but also funding all the parts whenever we need. We're speaking now about the new wing. The new wing was built by Yossi Popak, but the new wing needs exactly 100 new units, bookcases. It cost money. I told Rabbi Kunin of what he need, and that day, he sent to the library the amount that we need for it. All the way, from the first day, whenever I have a problem, Rabbi Kunin is my address. I'll ask him to say a few words. But the second Ida Notzach, this forum that was damaged, right away Rabbi Kunin arranged they should be sent to a special company. They put all the boxes, they put all the books, the damaged books in boxes, as we see. They put it in a freezer. The water shouldn't make mold. And after a month or 2 in the freezer, they took it out and they put it in a second machine, a second storage, to take out the humidity of the books. It shouldn't be damaged. And then, after that was done, to put in a third machine to kill the mold that over the time was built up for the storm. Friday, the boxes came back. And that's our second Ida Notzach in the week of Hey Taylors.
Not used to public speaking, so you have to excuse me. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam First and foremost, I think all of us should give a special bracha. Rabbi Shalom Ber Levin, who's put his life into this library. Him and his whole family, Shabbat Yomim V'Sholem Teves. My great Shashikar, to the beauty, for all his efforts, for all the years. Then we had my dear friend. Very, very special person. Wonderful person. Steve Lieberman, went to court. And that Friday when they brought the books back here. We have to thank Rabbi Yosef Nissim Kuhn, our son, who arranged it all with the various places. The ruling came down. The books belong to the Rebbe. The books belong here in 770. No place else. No place else. And anybody who's put his hand onto stopping the books from coming back, may God have mercy on their souls. It's Hey Tavis today. And we must say thank Rabbi Shem Tov for putting all this effort to bring the books from Poland. Am I correct? He says yes, it must be yes. And Rabbi Aronov, who spent with us 3 wonderful years in Moscow. That's a lot of fun, right? Wasn't it, Rabbi Aronov? Today is Hey Tavis, we celebrate the miracle took place when the Rebbe got back his books. I remember being on a plane coming, and I heard the words. What happened? What's happening? What's happening? Dad, it was here already. We have a Rebbe. And our Rebbe is always with us. We are never, ever alone. So then when I had to come to, we said, Kelim Reikimat Hamiti, create vessels. Create vessels. To hold the great light. But there's no place to put the books. Look at this beautiful place that there is. Room for 25,000 svarim. And the Rebbe said to me, Shlomo, sei sie nicht magbil, don't hold it down to them. So when they give them noch and noch, they're going to give you more and more and more. And now we have 25,000 books, Rabbi Levin. We'll get to 125,000. It'll continue to go. So on this very special day, we all want to say, may the Almighty God grant us, on this day of great simcha, Hey Tavis, Almighty God grant us. We should get a call all the way from Russia. And they're wonderful people, have been very good to the Jewish people. This is a spiritual battle for the books. Going back to the days of Gorbachev, etc. said Yeltsin, etc. said now's not the time to talk about it. So whatever the case is, let them give the books back with a smile on their face. Thank you, rabbis, for taking the books out of my hands. And now we can be busy with other issues that we feel we have to deal with. So I want to say l'chaim again. Long, healthy, and happy years to all of us. My Rebbe not for me, but for Malayam. So I'm full and completed for Shlomo. She was alone for 3 years. And with all the kids when we were there in Moscow. And I thank Rabbi Wilhelm so much for his work in the library and everybody else that did so much. L'chaim v'levracha. A little song. Come on, That's it. Thank you, everybody. God bless you.
We are celebrating today the Nitzochen of Hey Tavis, the Nitzochen in the court case. The court case was if the Sforim belonged to the Rebbe as private property, as the grandson wanted to say, or it belongs to Chabad, to Agudas Chassid Chabad. For a half a year, the fight went on. Ran by the head of Agudas Chassid Chabad, Rabbi Shem Tov, by Rabbi Krinsky, and prepared the documents and the arguments by myself and by Rabbi Villalem. After this half a year, took another year till the verdict came out. And this is the main celebration of Hey Tevis. The proper person to speak about Hey Tevis is the Yeshiv Rosh of Agudas Chassidic Chabad, Rabbi Avraham Shem Tov.
Rabbi Krinsky mentioned before about the time when the Rebbe was on that Simchas Torah in Shkemel gedacht, and there were things that happened there which of course required time and preparation. I wasn't prepared. But there is something very special which I was told. We mark the day of the Dan Notzach, Rosh Chodesh Kislev. Actually, a day before, or the night before, the first time that the Rebbe, when he was the whole time here in the house, came out. And he came out and spent quite a bit of time. You have to forgive me if I didn't check with you first, but I hope. Believe it or not, he came out of where he was until that time into the library. I didn't have the chus to have been there not then, because it was my place, it is. But Reb Schoenberg was there, weren't you? That was the first thing that the Rebbe, from where he was, his choice confined, and he came out. So the real Geula, in that sense, was the night before, when he came into the library, and he sat for a while. Am I right?
2 hours.
What?
2 hours.
No.
Over an hour.
No, 15 minutes.
Imagine, that was a moment. And the comments he made about some of this forum, etc., etc. So therefore, it's a moment which I am, everyone here, Level Nefesh, approaching to mark the day of the freedom, the Dan Notzach. The Dan Notzach carries with it, imagine, the time that we knew what the Rebbe is going through. Everybody, by dancing, by singing, by fasting, by whatever it is, tried to help. But all the time before this was disclosed to us, we have been involved. What happened? What happened was that as long as this remained in a way in which it can be corrected and put back in place where it should be put back to, so the Rebbe suffered all of this. Imagine, to the point when he shared it, can you imagine what happened until then? Going in the elevator. So what happened? What happened was it came a moment when there was a possibility of a mi'uvas le'yochel liskin, something that cannot be brought back and corrected. As long as the Sforim were here, in this Daladamis, in spite of the fact who claimed the rights to it and caused the Rebbe al Mastafisha will go into it now. But at least Lepel, it was in the Daladamas, and the minute that it's overcome, it's back there in place. What happened then was that the hand of the rich, whatever it is, reached to touch it in a way in which it will be a merubas leyochel, something that cannot be corrected, because once the sefer left here, that's already out of reach. And that is the moment when the Rebbe Mamash, who would ever expect in such a way to the whole world, the very opposite of the Rebbe's, whoever knows, was put here online. We won't go into it, what went through, because this is that's not the moment over here. The moment over here is zeroing in on the particular. But we saw what this meant. Apos for him wurden geworden verkauft. And there were always those ready who notified afterwards not to touch it, to buy it back at a cost. We can noch zurück. Brought the Rebbe out after all of these years of suffering mit alle out, sich nicht reingegessen haben. Brought the Rebbe out in such a way. Und am offenen Weg. Wir gedenken noch, wie der Rebbe geklappt in Tier. Chemische Mein. We willen geen reden wegen dem. For that, I don't claim to have the capacity or whatever it is. But I do want to express a thank you to Schoenberg, and of course everyone with him who were there. And Lepel, when it came, broke through the Dan Nutzach. The Dan Nutzach. They were there to meine Frage, der was mit dir Yitzchak. Das Schuss. Akaponi mit davon gedenken, was es meint. Der Dan Notzach. Der Dan Notzach darf noch meinen, as far them, because before that there was a Dan served und gewätigt. Aber das gehalten zu sich. Das ist herausgebracht geworden. It hit all of the Hakbolas. And what was the reaction? Mit dem größten Hand. Only dazu und jetzt Sachen to tell things what happened by the meetings and those. This is not the setting for it now and not on the program. But this is certainly a moment of Nachesuach des Forums, der kommen zurück. Gebeten und sein ja der eine von uns und die was uns speziell getan in dem zum Geben nach Suach a schöne Matep Kokenu in dem Tag das der größte Jontef. Das ist der Jontef was dem Rebbe versprochen der größte Bitte was hat geteilt mit der ganzen Welt. Mit doch dann Sachen nicht gewusst. Aber mir sagt a Geule und befreit von weiß man dort das was es ist. I wasn't expecting, I wasn't, alright, I'm true. So they bist helfen. It's a moment where we all can reach and bring back heights that have been ours and prescribed by the Rebbe to remain and grow by us with his Hatzos und alle was haben zu tun mit dem. Ich wollte mit dem Mann etwas noch bei Levin, mein Vater,
Steve Lieberman.
Steve
Lieberman.
Levin, Honor.
40 years ago, in the summer of Tovshin Mem Aleph, the Rebbe obligated us, Rabbi Kunin and myself, to get involved in saving the Sforim of Rabbi Seinu that are still in Golis. It took several years of efforts. Dr. Hammer and others that helped. And then the Rebbe sent us, together with his secretary, Rabbi Mindel, to try to locate and release the Sforim to us, to the library of Agudas Chabad. We succeeded in locating the library, the collection, but the negotiation just started, and they went on for many, many years. In Tovshin Mem Aleph, in Tovshin Nun Aleph, after the victory and Atzloche in saving the Chernobyl kids by Rabbi Aharonov's staff, he felt that there is a chance that the same staff should help also in the relief of the Sforim. He wrote it to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe sent us again to Russia to try to save the library, together with the Rabbi Aharonov and Rabbi Kogan. We were there for a year and a half, did everything that's possible, but the Sforim are still there. After years that the Sforim are still not in the library, we started a case. First of all, according to the Rebbe's directive, started a case, court case in Russia, with a victory, but the Sforim didn't come back. Then we started a court case here in the States that is going on for the last 17 years. I mentioned before the victory of several days ago when the damaged Sforim was saved and returned on Friday. In middle of the books coming, I get a telephone of Rabbi Yossi Kunin saying that his father Rabbi Kunin and the lawyer Steve Lieberman are on the line, and Steve Lieberman wants to tell us a few words. And Steve started saying, half an hour ago, there was a verdict of the appellate court in the federal court in Washington in our favor. It's not the Geula Shleima yet, but it's a step, one more step in the long journey of the Geula Sforim. What exactly happened in this verdict? We will ask Steve Lieberman to tell us a little bit about it.
I'm honored to be here today celebrating with you the 35th anniversary of the liberation of the Rebbe's books as part of a team led by Rabbi Baruch Shlomo Kunin and his sons Rabbi Yossi Kunin and Rabbi Chaim Kunin, three indefatigable individuals who tell me all the time, if you can't go around the wall, go under the wall. If you can't go under, go over. If you can't go over, you go through the wall. But everything is always press ahead, and press ahead today. And they've been an inspiration to us. I'm speaking on behalf of a team at my firm, Rothwell Fig. My colleague Bob Parker has been the co-captain of the team, and other lawyers at the firm as well. So today, in addition to the 35th anniversary of the liberation of the Rebbe's books, we're also celebrating another miraculous victory. Last Friday, on the 5th day of Hanukkah, the Federal Appeals Court in Washington, D.C. rendered an important ruling in Chabad's favor. Last Friday, the United States Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit affirmed the judgment won by Chabad in 2008 and again in 2010, holding that the Schneerson collection belongs to Chabad, that it was stolen by the Soviet Union, and that it has been improperly retained for more than 100 years. That judgment won through the brilliant legal work of my colleagues Nat Lewin and Eliza Lewin, had come under persistent and sustained attack by the Russian Federation and its agents. As I think many of you know, after Judge Lamberth of the District Court ruled that the Schneerson collection belonged to Chabad and ordered the Russian Federation to return that collection, and Russia refused to do so, the court imposed sanctions on the Russian Federation and the other defendants. Those sanctions now exceed $156 million, an increase by $50,000 a day. Now, Chabad does not want the money, although I'm not sure it will turn it down if offered. Chabad wants the judgment in order to put pressure on the Russian Federation to return the stolen books, the books held captive in Moscow. And Chabad has sought discovery in the courts to obtain the location of the assets belonging to the Russian Federation and ultimately to seize assets owned by the Russian Federation as a way of exerting pressure on Russia to return the Rebbe's books. In opposing our efforts, Russia has resorted to many different schemes and strategies to block Chabad. Among them were its recent efforts to attack the validity of the underlying judgment against Russia through two proxies that hold Russian assets, a bank and a uranium company. But last Friday, the United States Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit rejected Russia's attacks on the books, rejected Russia's attacks on the judgment through its proxies, dismissing those entities' appeals and affirming the ruling of Judge Lamberth that the judgment against the Russian Federation is a valid judgment. This is an important step in Chabad's efforts to free the Rebbe's library. And it's particularly appropriate that the orders from the Court of Appeals were issued on the 5th day of Hanukkah. For Chabad, as you all know, the 5th day of Hanukkah is of special significance because the Alter Rebbe was released from his second imprisonment on that day. And this case also involves imprisonment. During the Russian Revolution, Russia's Bolshevik government seized the Schneerson Library and then in 1926 arrested the previous Rebbe for counter-revolutionary activities, namely establishing Jewish schools, and beat him and sentenced him to death by firing squad. And while the previous Rebbe was ultimately released and later came to the United States, his books remain imprisoned in Russia. Those books remain under lock and key in Moscow, captives to the same entity that sentenced the previous Rebbe to death. It is particularly appropriate that this important step in the ultimate liberation of the captive books and their restoration to their rightful owners, Chabad, so they can reside here in this beautiful library, occurred on the 5th day of Hanukkah. And it is a great honor that that event, in our case, against the Russian Federation, can play a role in this wonderful celebration and hopefully bring us closer to the day on which all of these shelves, all of these beautiful shelves, will be filled with the entire Schneerson collection.
As mentioned, in addition to Steve Lieberman, that is involved so much in the new case, is working together with Nat Lewin Nat Lewin is the one that worked for us in the first Davis victory. Tireless from the first day till the last day. Yes, that we all hear you soon. So I'm saying that the victory, the first victory of Davis, that we received the whole library after the court case, was through the efforts, tireless efforts of Nat Lewin. This new case that we work is also not involved together with Steve Lieberman. Not only the last 15 years that we have the lawsuit here in the federal court. Even in the first time we went there in 1988 in Tovshin Mem Ches, we asked Dr. Nat Lewin to prepare for us a lawyer assessment and opinion that we served to the government of Russia. The whole Davis victory from the first day in Tovshin Mem Hey that I met with Nat Lewin the first time here in 766 in my office for several hours to prepare him for the subject of the case. Until this day, he is constantly involved in the lawsuits of the Sforim. We'll ask him now by telephone to say a few words.
Well, it's always been very good exclusively from the very beginning when I was awakened in the middle of the night by Rabbi Kiad Meir Yesher Shana call at home to tell me about the problem that was presented regarding the Sforim and what was being done with those until this very day when, with so many absolutely marvelous assistants, Rabbi Krinsky, Rabbi Chemtov, Rabbi Levine, now in these latest days, Steve Lieberman, who I understand is also there. It's been constantly helpful and necessary in terms of victories that we could have in our courts, in foreign courts, where we had to go. I mean, the very first time when the matter was presented to me in my office and a page of the Kosher Mishpat was brought in order to show me, and I think the Rebbe had instructed that I be satisfied that it would be appropriate to go into a secular court to fight this battle. And first we had, I remember being shown an annotated page of the Kosher Mishpat that would make me totally comfortable about being able to go on this matter of the Sforim, the earliest case of the Sforim, and then, of course, that went on to the more recent litigation that we have had against Russia, and that with B'ezras Hashem we have succeeded and will B'ezras Hashem succeed in the future with people like Steve Lieberman working on it and others, and my daughter, Alisa, who from the time that she became a lawyer and working with me in legal practice was constantly in these matters, and the people who worked on the case when we actually went to trial before Judge Sifton, Seth Waxman, who went on to great legal position, and important lawyers from my Monsignor Shestak, Jerome Shestak, so helpful. And the witnesses, the array of witnesses that we had in this trial, from Elie Wiesel and Louis Jacobs and Zalman and other who helped, including a New York law firm that I constantly referred to on matters involving Chabad and other Jewish issues, Schleim, Stone, and Dolan, Harvey Stone and Richard Dolan, all important, very important players who really formed this, Sabbath's army of Chayalim who fight against very great odds recently against, of all things, God could successfully fight Russia in our courts, in foreign courts. Today, the President of the United States today is not ready to say that he would engage in military battle over something against Russia. And yet, Chabad, Bezos Hashem, with God's help, with all these years of the Rebbe and his brachas, has successfully prevailed, and even it's pushed for me not only to be able to fight for Chabad with regard to Sfarim, but also with regard to menorahs, with regard to Neros Hanukkah, Ner Mitzvah Torah, that the Hanukkah menorahs all over the world, which is a tribute to the foresight of the Rebbe, assisted by Shem Tov, who saw that it was desirable to involve American government in this public display of Jewish pride at Hanukkah. And it continues to be a battle. To this day, we have to fight in municipalities. Amazing. I bet I still get before Hanukkah calls from shluchim all over the United States. And even occasionally, somebody from Canada or from some foreign country will send me an email, a shliach, saying, maybe you can help me here with regard to putting up a menorah. But in the United States, menorahs have now become universally accepted. And the Chabad menorah is recognized even by those who were adversaries within the Jewish community at the very beginning, when we fought the battle. The secular American Jewish community and parts even of the religious American Jewish community were formally lined up against us. In the Supreme Court, we had against us the American Jewish Congress, in addition to the ACLU and other Jewish American organizations. And Chabad managed to prevail over them. And even to the extent, I have to say, the head of the Washington ACLU, on the day that the Supreme Court rendered the decision in favor of the Chabad menorahs, said to me, that we were walking through the Supreme Court, most Jewish nation, that was their view, that by having menorahs in public places, this Jewish nation, which is ridiculous, of course, God was saying and what he said to us, that recognized that Jews should have the respect and the recognition that America and that any part of the world should provide for Jewish tradition and Jewish observance. And the battle continues, unfortunately, to this day. And the things we read about in the newspapers every day about what is happening in the Golden and Medina today. But again, led by the kind of very affirmative teachings and examples that Chabad school can give to in the United States, world, and in Israel, we will prevail and have many more nutsacks that we will be able to celebrate together. I'm very
In that Sikhe, the Rebbe announced that Hey Tevis is a day every year, a Yom Sgula for the Dan Notzach, for the library. The Rebbe continued on saying that everyone should participate in it by donating a sefer to the library that is not in the library yet. If he is a mechaber, if he is a publisher, or he's a collector, or he has in his house for him that he doesn't really need so much for learning, he has others for him to learn, he should donate it to the library to enlarge the Chabad library. Then, a while later, I notified the Rebbe that people are bringing in for him, and it's overloaded. There is no space to put them out in shelves. So the Rebbe said I should form a Vada Binyan. As I mentioned before, I opened the Vada Binyan with Rabbi Gurarye, Alav Shalom, and Yibod L'chaim Tevim, Rav Shlomo Kunin. They got Negidim, donors, to donate to the whole construction of the library in 770, including the chotzer that became a storage under it, including the additional floor in 766, including the bridges to 770, as the Rebbe said, that the Friedrich Rebbe started the library in 770, so it should stay in 770 with its extensions to the next building. That was done by construction. As I mentioned before, from time to time we had more reasons that we needed some money for all kind of corrections and constructions. And Rabbi Kunin was always on my right hand helping. But as we see, the library is enlarging itself so much, and the expenses are so much. I've mentioned before the 5,000 form that was damaged, that was supposed to be corrected. That cost money. And so many other things that the expenses build up from day to day. For this cause, we decided that for this Hey Tevis, we will open the special Magbis Hey Tevis for the library expenses. I am not capable of handling it myself. I asked Shmaya Krinsky, and I asked Elkona Shmotkin, they should prepare that. And that went on air with the special videos that Jem prepared, with the special organization that Shmaya prepared. Started this morning, and so far it's going very, very successful. The Magbis gives not only the funds to the library to be able to continue and grow. The Magbis gives the chance to every Chassid to connect himself to the library. In the words of the Rebbe, that everyone should donate sforim and help build up the library. And it doesn't make any difference if he gives a donation of $18 or of $18,000. Everyone gives what he feels, but when he gives his part in it, he's connecting himself to the library, and he's connecting himself to the Rebbe that proclaimed that every year when this day comes, everyone should celebrate the Dida Notzach and help in the build of the library until the library will be built and the final Dida Notzach, that we, the Rebbe with us, take us out from the Golus. B'Gula Amitis Ashleinu al dem Mashiach Tzidkeinu.
That's a big trip. And he said, and then the sea walks on that
Hey,